Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Good win last week. Was proud of our team, and now business picks up. It's a great team. We're going to play against Montana State. One of the great venues, and I think one of the best true home field advantages in college football. So it's going to be a great challenge for us. I think they are really outstanding on both sides of the ball. One of if not the best offensive line in FCS football. Great quarterback who's played a ton of football for them, who's a great passer. I think he's 12 touchdowns, no interceptions this year, and then he's a tremendous runner as well and a great athlete that you have to account for. The running back is excellent. I think he, looking at how Scott Trey Humphrey's gotten better, I think he may be the best back in the league. On defense, truly have some great players. I think Greeby is as good as anybody. He's number 41. He was number 10 last year. He's a tremendous player. Had a great game against us last year. I think their Mike, who didn't play against us last year, number 30, Danny. He's a very, very good player, and I know they're going to get their safety back, number 2, who I thought was excellent. He hasn't played all year, but I heard he's coming back for our game. So going to be a great challenge going against this team. But excited to go play and national television, great exposure for our program in the Big Sky Conference. So, open up to questions.
Coach, you guys were able to limit a lot last year. I was here. I think last game you had 8 completions and 4 of them were touchdowns. How do you stop them again and make sure you limit them?
Well, we kept those guys off the field pretty well last year. They only had 47 plays, which I don't know if we can count on it going that way again. But that's probably the most effective way to stop him is have him on the sideline. But he's a great player. I do think it starts with stopping the run. I mean, they run the ball for over 300 yards a game, which is outstanding, 6.6 yards per carry. So I do think stopping the run, we were able to do a pretty good job, last year at the end of the game, when time became a factor, and we got to put them in a situation where they had to throw and we could pin our ears back. But there's not, you got to get them to third down, you got to get them to 2-minute situations before you can do that.
Pretty front-loaded schedule so far. I know Jared kind of told us about how many FCS, top 25 teams you guys have faced. I'm wondering though, is it just trying to play to the competitiveness of the other team that keeps the team up, or how do you guys keep on with this grueling schedule?
Well, we've talked about. You want to be a really good team, you got to be very consistent, and you got to be, at or near your best every week. And if you have, weeks where you're not, you're probably going to get beat when you have a competitive schedule. So that's something we've been talking about, is being consistent. I think we've been fairly consistent throughout the season, but this is a great challenge. I wouldn't say Montana State is quite Oregon, but I think they're probably the second best team, clearly, that we've played this year behind them. And, the home field advantage, it's a smaller venue than Autzen, but it's still a really good home field advantage. It's going to be probably, just as loud as Autzen.
Do you plan on rotating the quarterbacks once again this week, and do you believe that maybe Nick will start instead of Jack?
Yeah, I thought Nick did some good things in the game, and stood in the pocket and made some good throws. I think we're going to evaluate practice. I thought Wagner practiced better than Nick last week, so that was part of the reason that Wags started last week, and Nick was still kind of nursing that ankle. So I think it's going to be really an evaluation of Tuesday's, Wednesday's practice, and then make a final decision whether we're going to go, with both of them or one of them. But Nick's done a good job. Again, probably. Didn't love that turnover. I think that was a time to take a sack, because it was right in his face, the pressure, when we fumbled and gave him field position. But I thought, other than that, I thought Nick played pretty well.
And just going off the offense a little bit more, obviously you guys got off to 2 pretty good starts offensively, and then in the third quarter there's kind of been a lull. What are you seeing, and what would you like to change this week?
I thought we had some technique stuff and how we were blocking things that led to some errors where we didn't have it. We had 2 3rd and 1s down the stretch, and we get a penalty on one, and we're laid off the ball, and we don't get it. Even if we had gotten it, they would have had to accept the penalty, and we at least would have had a 3rd and 6. But that was bad coaching by us. We got to fix. And then the other 3rd and 1, we just had some guys lose their one-on-one battles, which had some technique incorporated as well that we got to coach up better. That was down the stretch. It was the first series of the third quarter was pretty effective. The first series we went down there and got a field goal. We kind of got Eli Cummings breaks a run and kind of gets tripped up by air, which I thought he was going to house that one. So that was a shame of a drive that we had to settle for 3. But we had some technique things when we got down there in the red zone that weren't great. I think it's that more than anything. Again, I do think last game when they had their backup quarterback in the game, we wanted to take the air out of the ball a little bit and try to run it out, and we got to do a little better job of that. We were a few yards away from doing a really good job of that.
You going to have to move anybody around this week?
You're talking like injury-wise?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we ended up having Isaiah King was out last week. But I expect him to be back. Abe Williams was out last week. He's going to be out for a while. He ended up having a broken arm. So Abe's going to be out for a while. But I thought KJ Trujillo did a really nice job coming in and starting at corner. Deuce Bleman was able to get some reps in the game, did a good job. And then I think we'll get Corey Thomas back too. He was a guy that we hoped would play last week, but couldn't. But talking to him today, I think he's optimistic he'll be back to give us a little bit more depth there at corner. So not any major shuffling. And again, Matthias played really well. He's played a lot of football for us, so I don't think that was a drop off at all. Being he'll still rotate him quite a bit.
He had an ETA on length. It looks on the sidelines like he's got better shoulder mobility than I have.
He's getting better. Yeah, I don't think he'll be ready this week, but we expect him definitely back, this season. So we'll see how the next X-ray looks and everything. I think the first X-ray we got was very, very optimistic.
Jason Eck getting defensive player of the week, but also his first career interception. We saw you running down and getting to go hug him. I don't know if it's as a coach or as a dad. What were you more proud of?
Probably both. I'm proud of all of our guys when they make a great play, but especially in the moment. But I think you take a step back and. Yeah, pretty awesome. As a dad too, to see him play well and get those honors, because I know he's invested a lot and works very hard, and I think he definitely has earned the respect of his teammates. So he's doing a really nice job for us at Mike.
Can you talk a little bit about Montana State and that hostile environment?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there a lot. I coached there in 2015, and then we played there twice when I was at South Dakota State. I think we beat them in 2017, and then they beat us my last game at South Dakota State before I got hired here. They knocked us out of the playoffs. So, it's a loud crowd. You have to be careful with having too much communication at the line of scrimmage. There was times where you have trouble making, even calls to two O-linemen next to each other. So you better build a sound game plan that is, good against whatever they're doing. You don't want to have to audible out of plays, because if you're audibling out of plays, there's a good chance that somebody on the 11 guys is not going to get it right. So I think you got to be really simple with what you do. They do a good job of filling it, having great crowds coming to impact the game. I think the one end zone is a little louder where their students are. The enclosed end zone, the scoreboard side is a little quieter because there's not as many people down there. I hope they still let people go out for beers at halftime, because then usually the quietest the stadium ever is that first series of the third quarter. So I hope they still let them go out to have beers in the parking lot, because that gives you one series where it's a little quiet. But besides that, it's a loud, tough place to play. They got a really small visitors locker room. They don't give you many tickets. You got to put some of your people in standing room only. It's a tough place to play for a lot of reasons.
I imagine at this point in the season, everybody's got a plan for Keyshawn in Dallas. What do you expect them to do?
Yeah, Keyshawn, I think, is a little easier to help on at end, just because, you can chip with the back, you can chip with the tight end, and we're definitely seeing that. I mean, each of the last 2 weeks, certainly, we've seen a lot of attention to those to him, with that. With a D tackle, you can turn your protection with the center going towards him to help, but that doesn't always fit well with your, where the back has to fit in protection, where you want your back in a check down, because we're not, a real heavy blitz team where the back's always staying in. I mean, I'm sure you'd want to get your back out against us in protection. So, really, we got to do a good job with those guys. We got to have some things to get to if teams are chipping, which we should expect. And then I think it also, opens up some opportunities for other guys to make plays. You look at Malachi Williams having a sack each of the last 2 weeks. Those guys are going to have more one-on-one opportunities that you have to capitalize on. But, maybe I think they'll do some element of that. It's particularly than obvious passing downs, but I think they'll also be times where they trust their O-line. I mean, they're a good O-line. Those guys have played a lot of football. I guess their tackles are a little younger as sophomores than the interior guys. I think Marcus Weir was a first-team All-Conference last year. Their right guard and is really a good player. But Coach Johnson, their O-line coach, does a good job. So there'll probably be times where we get one-on-ones, and then hopefully we can win when we get those one-on-ones. And again, the key is getting them into third down and getting them into passing situations. They're 53% conversion on third down, which tells me they're not in a lot of third and longs. You got to be in a lot of third and shorts to be 53%.
Coach, we talked a bit about Tommy earlier, but he's obviously played great football there his whole career. But it seems like this year he's really taken it to a new level. Do you see that as just a product of the offensive line and the run game, or what are you seeing that's kind of made him so special this year?
Well, I mean, he's been playing since 21, so. It's his fourth year playing. Last year they were rotating him and Chambers, though Chambers didn't play much against us. I think he might have only played a series against us, and they played Tommy a lot more. I just think he's probably more veteran. I think, you want to, last year when they had both those quarterbacks, they probably were gung-ho with running both of them because, hey, we got two starting quarterbacks. We feel like, you're not seeing like last year, you're not seeing two quarterback sets early in the game. The backup quarterbacks usually played more. Their next quarterbacks have 8 attempts and 6 attempts, so it's his show. So I think they're trying to, they don't want him running the ball 20 times a game. That's a recipe for breaking your quarterback. So I think they're trying to rely a little bit more on the passing game. They're still going to use him as a runner. I mean, he still has, 34 carries on the year, so that's, 6 times a game that he's using his feet. And, in a big game that could definitely be a few more to try to do that. But, he's showing that he's a great passer. 68% completion is something I aspire to with our offense. And, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's doing a great job of not turning the ball over. So, I think he's taken the next step and is definitely one of the best, if not the best, quarterbacks in our conference.
Thomas's shoulder, okay.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know how much he's going to be able to practice, but, we got to get some other guys ready, Art Williams and Day Buchanan, in case he can't. But I think we're still optimistic. He feels a lot better today than he did, on Saturday. So I do think running back, is a position where you don't always need a ton of reps during the week. He's got to get all the blitz protection down, which he can get through walkthroughs and stuff. And then on game day, it's kind of turning it loose. So I'm not counting him out, quite yet. But I think for tomorrow's practice, we got to keep developing those other guys and getting those guys better.
You expect you're going to be able to run through the A and B gaps against those guys as well as you did against NIL? You're going to have to use the edges more.
It'll be a challenge. They lost one of their D tackles, for a while, but they're big inside. They got Eckert, who's a big kid, who's from Lewiston, who I know will be highly motivated to play against us. So they're 280 and 290 up front. Iden, he was a kid I knew even when he was a little kid when I coached in Bozeman, because his dad played there. They're good up front. So we'll see. I mean, that's some of their film. It was tough to judge. I know certainly most of the teams they played haven't been able to. There were times where New Mexico did a little bit, but, probably the next 5 teams haven't done a very good job of it. So I think that's, it's something we like to do. So I think we're certainly not going to shy away from it. But, I don't know if we can bank on just running downhill against these guys all game. They're a good front. They play against they're giving up 79 yards a game rushing. So that's the best we've played against all year. That's pretty outstanding.
Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective is partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more.
Coach, we've talked the last few years about these late games and, having to kind of hang around the hotel a little bit extra, but what can you kind of take from the game at Davis and some of the other games you've had to going into this one?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be much of an issue. The ACU game was a 7 o'clock start local time. The Davis game was a 7 o'clock start local time. I thought both those games we came out, very strong in both those games. We might need we have to get some Red Bulls at halftime or something to make sure we're finishing the game strong. But I think we're used to it. We had this time slot. Last year the Southern Illinois game in the playoffs, the Albany game in the playoffs is this time slot. So it's Big Sky after dark, man. You gotta buck up. It's national TV. It's there's going to be a lot of a lot of people watching this game. Just football people. That same thing. I know. Like after we had our win last week, I wanted to sit on the couch and have a beverage, and I watched Cal play Miami, which was the late game. So, now we're going to be one of the late games on that you'll have a lot of eyes on this one. So, it's a great, hopefully none of those coaches are looking at our players and wanting our players as they watch that game. But you'll have a lot of eyes on this game, much more than a normal game.
Does that national game change your routine at all? Do you have any more responsibility? Do the kids have any more responsibility?
There's a few things. I mean, I think, just for a couple of players it will change. A couple of players usually do an interview with the broadcast team. We usually do, the coaches usually do an interview. Myself and the coordinators usually do an interview with the broadcast team, even if it's the ESPN Plus crew. So it's not a huge change. Montana has such a good media following. I think we'll have some more player requests for Montana media than we probably did last week for the Northern Arizona media. I think there's just more media that follow them. Football is very important there. So not a tremendous change in the schedule. And again, we kind of still think about our body clocks being Pacific time. So really, it's like a 15-minute change from the UC Davis game if it's a 7:15 start Pacific.
Those two picks on Saturday by your linebackers, obviously there might be like some spying involved with Tommy with his legs. How does that kind of affect changing schemes and stuff on Saturday? Yeah,
I think when you're playing a veteran quarterback, you got to mix up the pictures on him. You can't just let him know exactly what you're in, because he's going to know. He's going to know where to go with the ball in cover 4. He's going to know where to go with the ball in cover 3. He's going to know where to go with the ball in man. So you got to mix up your pictures and have some ways to confuse him. And I think that's a lot of, we had the 2 interceptions last week against, Northern Arizona's backup quarterback, who probably is still figuring out, where to go to the ball. So I don't know if there's a lot of carry over that. But, we got to do a good job with different pictures. We got to make sure anything we call, we're really sounding against the run game. But, they showed last week that if you, just try to stack the box and leave your guys outside one-on-one all day, he can beat you. I mean, I know that, when he was a freshman, when they beat us in the playoffs, he hit a lot of one-on-one balls. We were really stacking the box at South Dakota State to try to stop their running game. And, they had a really good receiver at the time, I think played in the NFL, who they were throwing one-on-one shots to and made about, the 50-50 balls were 80-20 Montana State that day, and they beat us in that game. So, it's a fine line. You got to really mix it up and try to guess right sometimes, and have maybe a call that's your best run defense when they're running it, and then hope you guess right once in a while and mix it up and play some pass looks. And it's a little tricky with these games where they've had a lot of games when the score has been they've blown out like everybody. I mean, they've had one close game and then really 5 blowouts. So sometimes it's tough, and it's the a different play caller for them than last year on both sides of the ball. So sometimes it's tough to get a little bit of a feel exactly for what they really want to do in crunch time, and hopefully we can make it a 4-quarter game, because they're very good and certainly can probably blow out anybody if they play their best football. But Yeah, it's a little bit of a guessing game and keeping that in, and it's tough because you watch like the cut up we like to watch. I think Coach Linehan's in charge of watching all the explosive pass plays, and you watch all the explosive pass plays, and they're usually when their backups are in. They're the ones who don't give up any explosive pass, So, and I think if we get their threes in, I think we can have a lot of stuff that works. But I don't know if we'll get their threes in. Their ones and twos are pretty damn good.
Just looking at their schedule, it doesn't look like they played anybody as physical as you guys.
Well, I'd say New Mexico was physical. I think New Mexico was a physical football team, and I thought they ran the ball. And how many yards did they run for? I mean, they ran for 152 against them on 28 carries, which isn't great. Maine was probably the next best. They were 34 for 149. So, I do think we're probably a lot more physical than the Utah Techs, Mercyhurst. Idaho State doesn't really even try to run the ball. They just want to be in four wides and throw it all the time. And, Mercyhurst only had 1 yard rushing. That's kind of a depressing number. But, I think we'll be a challenge for them. I don't think this is going to be I think we're going to be one of the better opponents, if not the best opponent they've faced on the year.
Thoughts on the Cowboys or the Cowgirls that run out with the horses for the 3-game thing? Any thoughts on that?
It's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. They got a lot of good things. They used to have I don't know if they do this for every game. I know the Montana State game, remember they used to have a big American flag that covered the whole field. That was pretty awesome. I don't know if they do that for every game, but it's a great atmosphere. You got the mountains in the background. You got a great crowd. Montana's got a culture that enjoys cold beverages, so I'm sure they'll be fueled up by 8:15. This will be like an LSU night game, a little bit that way. So it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be an awesome day for football, and we're playing a great team, and we got to really play our best football to compete with these guys because they're very, very good, and it's gonna be a huge challenge because again you look like the Oregon game. Oregon players probably took us lightly, and these guys certainly aren't going to take us lightly. They're going to be ready to go. So this is, they're deserving favorites in this game. They're a good team, and it's going to be a hard challenge. All right, questions online there? Slim, you got one, or Victor? Just a very good O-line that's well coached and physical, and they have great technique. They're coming off on tracks. Some movement isn't great against them because they handle it really well because they're disciplined and going towards areas and covering guys. And then the back's really good. And we recruited Scott Trey. He was teammates with Dallas Afalava, our interior D tackle. So we were familiar with him and recruited him, and that was a big pickup because I think he's. Julius Davis is a very good player, but I think Scott Trey is even better. Running behind that, and he's a great zone runner. So, I think his PFF grade is one of the highest in all of, FCS football. He's in the 90s. So, I think it's the O-line, and you better make sure on all the offset shotgun stuff that you're ready for the quarterback pulling it too. It's not that you can just dive everybody to the back because the quarterback. Is a sub-11 second 100-meter guy who, if he pulls it, he can be gone down the sideline. So you got to leave, a lot of times, not just one guy, 1.5 or 2 guys who are honoring that as well. So I think those are the challenges, with their zone game.
And on the other side, they've been running a lot of, guys standing up on the line and 4DN sets. So, how challenging has it been to prepare? What kind of stands out about their fronts and
Yeah, I think their new D coordinator, Daly, I think that's probably where you see his impact the most. On first and second down, it doesn't look a ton different than it's looked in the past, but I think you really see his impact on third down. And we try to do the same things. We like to get the sub packages on third down and get more speed on the field and get more pass rushers on the field. And they do a really good job with that, and they'll first and second down, and this is kind of like an NFL model. NFL teams are like this. First and second down, it's not, and they'll mix some things up, but it's not a lot of, huge change from week to week, but on third down they definitely have some creativity and some new stuff for you that's going to try to attack your protections, and you got to really do a good job being sound with that.
Last one for me. Obviously, a lot of new guys on your side in skill positions at least. How has that kind of, I guess, been preparing with those changes? Is there advantage with kind of some unknown or newer guys, or I guess what's that dynamic like?
Well, I think now that we're getting in, this is our 7th game of the year, so we've played a lot together now. I think that was a bigger issue earlier in the year, but now we've kind of seen that Dwyer and Hamper, I think, are doing a really nice job and have really emerged as targets. I think Emerson and Harsty are kind of doing a great job in that kind of third receiver role, and that's important. Our third receiver last year had a good game against these guys and made some big plays to help us win the game. So. I think Eli Cummings, had a 100-yard game last week. I know Woods played well in this game last year. So I think guys have stepped up, and they got 6 games to study. So I don't think it's an edge either way. For the teams, we just had some new faces coming in. I'm looking forward to Tommy Malott graduating because I feel like I've been going against him since I was at my last school. So I'll be anxious to see who the next quarterback is there. But just some new faces. But I think these are both programs that are in a lot of ways trying to build the same way. We're not quite to the level they are with running the ball, being at 300 yards per game, but I think we're continuing to improve, up front with our running game, and want to play good defense, want to be sound on defense, want to run the ball, be physical at the point of attack, be good on both lines of scrimmage, and I think that's the key to beating these guys. These guys are good up front, and again, I think we really played well up front on both sides of the ball last year, probably. To hang with them, but they were still good. I think they still had like 4 sacks on us last year. I mean, they sacked us the first 2 plays of the game last year, and then we were able to come back and find a way to win. But they're good up front. Again, I respect. I think you see how Coach Vigen's trying to build this team. He's trying to beat it to beat the South Dakota States and North Dakota States in the playoffs, which I think is a really smart way to do that because those teams have a lot of national titles over the last 15 years.
Meeting her stopped your world. The ring you give her should stop her heart.
Tina, will you marry me?
Not again! Don't worry, I'm gonna fix this because we want to be your jeweler! Aren't our beautiful diamond clear? Come back to me, Tina! Are you okay?
How much pride did you take in those first couple games and really the first stretch of the season, beating some tough teams, competing with Oregon after so much of the narrative in the offseason was about guys.
Well, I think it's we knew we had a challenging non-conference schedule. I thought we were pretty happy to come out of it with a 3-1 record and. Play Oregon tough, because they've had a tendency to blow out the FCS teams they've played over the last 20 years. So I thought that was something to build on, but I think it's just a good example. UC Davis was probably better than Wyoming. I think Montana State's better than Wyoming. So, our conference is so challenging that, every week's going to be a challenge. And, there were some upsets in our league the last couple weeks, whether it was, Sac State losing to on the road at Northern Arizona, or whether it was Montana losing at home to Weber. So you better bring it every week. But I think we've I'm happy we've made this a big game. I'm certainly happy we're not sitting here 1-5 or 2-4 and ESPN2 saying why the heck did we pick this game? So they've obviously held up their end of the bargain being 6-0. Wish we could have maybe been 5-1 coming into this, but it is what it is, and we got a path in front of us, an opportunity in front of us. We got to go try to take advantage of it. Yeah, and everybody, I know that 3 technique they lost last year was a really good player. I know he transferred somewhere, I think to Washington or something. So, everybody's dealing with the same things for the most part.
Hey, Coach, just a couple questions for me. You mentioned your tough schedule, Montana State's not as tough a schedule. How do you think that kind of plays into this game? Do you expect how either team maybe prepared for a showdown kind of like this one?
I think there's pros and cons either way. I think, we may be a little bit more worn down. I mean, obviously, we played our third quarterback a lot last week, which, doesn't happen as much when you're 6-0 and you're blowing teams out and you're, not having to throw the ball a lot. So I think you certainly have having a little tougher schedule. You can have more injuries and things. I don't know. Does it help you if it's a close game in the fourth quarter? I don't know. They did pretty well in a close game against New Mexico. Finding a way to win the game that I think they were down 17 points in the second half and found a way to win. So, it goes back and forth. I think we're certainly battle tested, but maybe they're a little fresher. From having played that schedule, and they probably felt number 2, that safety was a great player. They probably felt like, we can really make sure he's 100% before we get him back because we probably can handle these games without him. Or I don't know if we've had that luxury where we've been able to hold the starter out that, because we felt we could win a game, without him. I mean, if we had guys healthy enough to play, they were, definitely getting in there. So, I think there's pros and cons either way. I'd probably rather have Montana State schedule than our schedule, to be honest. But you that's life. You deal with what you can't control. I mean, our schedule this year was set before I was hired, so good for them. They can sell out when they play Mercyhurst. Hats off to the AD and the crew.
You mentioned, obviously you guys kind of have to go through the gauntlet on your quarterbacks. How's the team kind of responded to kind of the movement, the shuffling there?
I think we got a really mentally strong team, and I think they've responded great to everything. Every setback we've had, and I think that was one of the reasons I thought coming out of the UC Davis game that we needed to play Joseph Eck some because I thought the team really responded to how he came in and showed a lot of toughness and competed, and I think that's been a positive for everything in the organization, because I thought Wags, did a better job. He ran for a first down on a key third down last week that he hadn't been doing, and so I think that Nick coming in and playing with a lot of moxie and a lot of toughness, I think made everybody better. So I think the team has rallied around it. I think we have a close-knit team. We definitely don't have defense complaining about the offense not scoring as many points as they'd like to. I mean, I think they embrace that, and I think they take a lot of pride that. Hey, we went and beat an FBS team on the road with our backup quarterback. We're trying to hold teams under 17 points, no matter who we play. So, I think our team, is definitely a tough team that is going to, respond to adversity and not let things affect them.
Thanks, Coach.
No problem. All right.
If you guys are down in the fourth quarter and they're down in the fourth quarter, are either of you better built to come back than the other or not?
They've come down from 17-0, and won. I would say both teams are probably built to prefer to play on the lead. I think it's an advantage for either team to be on the lead, and that's just kind of how Montana State's built. North Dakota State, South Dakota State, any of those teams, you want to be a dominant team that can run the ball and end games. We're going to get there. We're not quite there yet. We had chances to put the game away in the fourth quarter last week, running the ball. We didn't get it done. But I think. Both teams would like to have a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, I think, and prefer not to be down. I think both teams will battle their, tails off. Montana State battled last year and, went down and gave themselves a chance to have a field goal to tie. Didn't hit it. I think we battled when we were down against UC Davis, and, they battled against New Mexico. But I think both teams would prefer to, be where they could run the ball a lot and didn't have to get into pass-heavy situations. All right. V's up. Big Sky After Dark. See you Saturday night.
Will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you'd do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.